Let's actually state some facts, and I'd like to show you a couple things here. Some of the dumbest stuff I've actually heard for the past year is from people that, logically so, if you're probably 30 years or younger, you didn't grow up with medium format, which would have been film, because medium format digital was absolutely out of reach to earthlings, except for the past couple years, and that's 100% entirely due to Fujifilm. So let's actually take a look at the facts, okay? Not my opinions, not your crazy beliefs or people that think that a GFX sensor is not medium format. Let's first start off by stating a fact that anything larger than 35 millimeter, and this is true even in the days of film, anything larger than 35 millimeter was in fact medium format. Let's take a look at film. By the way, this is a 6.7 negative from a 6.7 Pentax. I used to have a couple of those cameras back in photography school and beyond. This is actually the correct size of a 6.45 image film, and this is a 6.7 image. Anything larger than full frame, we all knew back in the day. None of us had some sort of retarded delusions like, well, that's not really medium format. You know, this is because it's 6.7. And I also had a large format camera back in the day. I even shot 8x10. I'm sorry I have no 8x10 negatives. This full size, not with a line, but this full size is a 4x5 black and white negative. This is from my Calumet 4x5. Nobody back in the day was deluded or stupid enough to confuse large format. Now, a lot of us would joke that, well, real large format was 8x10, and 8x10 was incredibly impressive, and it was incredibly huge and incredibly expensive, even in back in the days of film, even though, yeah, I'm old, I'm dating myself, was expensive. It was incredibly, is huge. It was just obnoxiously huge. Now, the real question is ultimately, which has more information? We're talking about film versus digital here. Which do you think actually had more information in it? You know, this 4x5 piece of film, or like a current 102 megapixel GFX 100. By the way, this is a phase 1 sensor. This is a 4.2 type. Let's actually talk about digital sensors here really quick, okay? Here we have micro four thirds. Here we have DX, i.e. crop sensor, APS-C. Here's 35 millimeter. GFX sized sensors are called type 3.4, okay? The phase 1 and HASI sensors are called type 4.2. And this is the exact size differentiation between full frame. These are exact dimensions, by the way. A type 3.4 sensor as found in the GFX, and a type 4.2. I don't know if you see this or not, since these are exact, and I use a really nice precision ruler for drawing these out. There's a huge difference between this FX and type 3.4 sensor. There's not such a big difference between a type 3.4 and a type 4.2. Okay, 3.4 sensor, which is GFX sensor. Both the older 51 megapixel and the new backside illuminated 102 megapixel sensor, and a type 4.2. Okay, 3.4, 4.2. So let's make that really clear. Whether it's film or digital, it's not my opinion, it's a fact. Let's leave your silly, stupid opinions at the doorstep, okay? Anything larger than 35 millimeter, okay, is medium format. Period. No debate, no discussion, no argument, fact. End of story. Shut up. That's the end of it. Here's the current new sensors. By the way, the IMX 461. This is the sensor, and let's see, type 3.4 sensor, type 4.2 sensor. This is actually the sensor in the new GFX 102 megapixel right here. You see that? You even see it right down here. It says 100, but really it's 102 megapixel. These are the Type 4.2 sensors. By the way, it comes in a monochrome version also. This is the IMX 411. This is a Type 4.2 sensor, 150 megapixels, right? Found the current phase 1. I forget which model it is of phase 1. Yeah, those are the two current. By the way, I talked to a guy yesterday who knows a famous photography buddy of mine, and he actually bought a phase 1 100 megapixels, an older phase 1 100 megapixel. I don't know if you know this or not. This is no slant against phase 1, but you don't actually understand the design constraints of actually making lenses to cover this sensor, even though the Type 4.2 is not that much larger than a Type 3.4. The lenses, the phase 1 cameras are the slowest, the absolute slowest effing autofocusing cameras on planet Earth. His exact words to me yesterday, I don't want to give out his name, his exact words to me yesterday, and I already knew this, he said, the phase 1 camera, he bought it, he didn't rent it, the phase 1 camera destroyed, for a time, my photography career. He could hit nothing with it. It is slower than a constipated turtle. The lenses, you think GFX lenses are expensive? They're actually not. But I mean, their medium format lenses are kind of expensive. The Type 4.2 sensor lenses are obnoxiously huge, insanely slow, and they are incredibly, astronomically expensive. By the way, I literally, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I called for a price quote on this at this company, and this is the size of the sensor. You want to talk about large format? Now, this is large format back in the day. 4x5, and of course 8x10. Almost nobody shot 8x10 because 4x5 was just, I mean, look at this. This is the size of the negative, right? Huge, right? This is technically, even though that nobody that has one of these, and you don't own one, and you can't afford one, and I can't afford one either. This is a real, okay, large format digital. It is 95 millimeters by 95 millimeters. I actually drew on the back, and by the way, all of these digital sensors, all of them are silicon wafer lithography. Guess how many sensors you can cut out if you use FX sensors on a platter this size? Well, okay, I can get X number of FX sensors on this platter and then laser cut it out and then attach all the circuitry. And you get a lot fewer of the GFX sensors, which is 70% larger than the FX, right? And then I can get a few fewer of the Type 4.2 sensors. Now, when it comes to this 95 megapixel, and I'll give you the price here in a second, I drew it on the back here, the 95 millimeter by 95 millimeter. This is 2013 technology. They're still using it, still in production. Now, I want to remind you, the new GFX camera is 102 megapixels. This one is 112, so it's 10 megapixels more. Okay, I'll point you out to this little fact here on the back. Yeah, you see what that is? That's where you actually feed in the liquid nitrogen to cool the sensor. This sensor, I got a price quote on it, is $375,000. It does not come with the God knows how expensive liquid nitrogen feeding system to cool the sensor. It does not come with the multi-mega million dollar telescope that actually feeds the image to this huge 95 millimeter by 95 millimeter sensor. Obviously, you see this is the liquid nitrogen inlet and the slightly warmed gaseous liquid nitrogen outlet that cools the sensor. And this is the data portal. Yeah, and obviously this fits into a large telescope. Here's this guy holding it. It's 2013 technology. I said $375,000. That's just for the sensor and the sensor assembly, right? Here is him holding a medium format sensor by comparison. This is at 95 millimeters by 95 millimeters. And they're all cut. Every digital sensor, whether it's DX, FX, GFX, or phase 1, or the telescope sensor, and this would be the size of it. But you can only get one sensor per platter, right? So you can only fit one sensor onto a large platter like this. Yeah. You see that? This is the silicon. This is real silicon wafer lithography. It's like a defective one. They didn't cut out the circuits. The chips on these. I said circuits. The chips on these, which are circuits, of course. Yeah, $375,000. Hold on, I went too far on the images. There we go. Right. And the current GFX 100 sensor is the IMX 461. Okay, so let's get that out of the way here. Medium format digital, and as well as film, has only been for one thing and one thing only: UIQ, ultimate image quality, or ultimate image output, UIO. That's all a Type 3.4 sensor or a Type 4.2 sensor is for. Let's take a look at this. You want to talk about a comparison? Anybody, by the way, every time someone says, well, medium format GFX sensor is not real medium format. Well, actually it is. Okay? People that say that are not only ignorant and stupid. What they do is they have sensor envy. What they're really saying is when they say, and it's exactly what they say, well, GFX sensor is not really medium format sensor. It's like small medium format. Everybody that says that, what they're actually saying, I'm going to translate it for you because I'm a really good translator. I'd really like to have that camera, but I can't afford it. That's exactly what that means, and that is all that means. Here's a 6.7 sensor, but a piece of film. This is from my 6.7 Pentax. Yeah, I even wrote on it. 6.7 Pentax, this is 645, right? Even the 645, yeah, compared to, this is a phase 1 sensor. I want you to take a look at the size between a phase 1 sensor and a GFX sensor. Yeah, type 3.4, type 4.2, even the small medium format, 6.45 compared to a type 4.2. This is a 6.7. If we really want to be, logical, we would call this, and this is a digital sensor, the 95 millimeter by 95 millimeter silicon wafer lithography. This would actually be large format. These two are, of course, medium format. Anything larger than FX, de facto, period, no discussion, no debate, is medium format. Let me repeat that again for the incredibly stupid people out there. Anything larger than FX is de facto medium format. Shut up. That's not up for debate. It's larger than this, it's medium format. Okay? There is no debate on that. Nobody back in the day said, well, this is not really medium format because it's not as big as my 6.7 Pentax. We would kind of joke and ribs like, well, it's a 6.45, could it be a 6.7? There's not a big difference between a 6.45 and a 6.7. They both have absolutely incredible image output. But you know what the difference between even the GFX or the phase 1, even an FX, the difference between this and this large format negative or this 6.7 or a 6.45, more information. Easier to work with, easier to render, easier for post-production, no need for chemicals and processing and sticking your hands in cancer-causing chemicals and sitting in a dark room in the middle of the daytime. Yeah, any of this is better, right? So this is real large format digital. These two are medium format. This, of course, is FX, and over here would be crop sensor. So give it up. Give it a rest with this talk on sensor size. Just realize that, yes, anything larger than 35 millimeter is medium format. Type 3.4 sensor, type 4.2. There's not much difference between a type 3.4 and a type 4.2. There is, however, a huge leap between a 35 millimeter and a type 3.4, and this is the GFX sensor. And lastly, once again, the sensor in the GFX 100S is this, the IMX 461. Type 3.4 sensor and 100 megapixels. Specifically, it's 102 megapixels, but it was counting 2 megapixels when we're talking about 100. But I'll remind you that for a mere $375,000, you can get a sensor, which will require probably another $100,000 liquid nitrogen cooling system, a sensor that is absolutely ginormous, okay? It's not portable. You can't do it for any kind of photography except for pointing at the stars. But it is for only $375,000. So for only $365,000 more, you can get the main component, kind of like buying the sensor only of a GFX. A sensor that will give you 10 more megapixels than the GFX. Oh my God. For 10 more megapixels, it's only $365,000 more, but that's not the camera. That's just the sensor and the circuitry to process the image, which is fed to the back, but you also need a liquid nitrogen cooling tank that feeds it and displaces the heat exchanger system, which is basically what it is. And, oh, by the way, you need at least a $5 million telescope to attach to that. But who wants to buy a $375,000 sensor if you don't have at least a halfway decent telescope, which isn't $5 million? We're looking like $20 million, $30 million. Yeah. Please don't give me this bullshit anymore. But it's not really a medium format sensor. Yes, it is, because anything larger than this, FX, is medium format. Period. Wait for it. Fujifilm.